Many people think that the most amazing discoveries are made only by archaeologists, but that is not true. There are many known cases in which ordinary people found things that not only opened new pages of the past, but also changed our understanding of history. In this video, I present a selection of the most interesting and unexpected discoveries from around the world. Enjoy watching. A group of friends found a Soviet legend in an old hangar, a Yak-52 training aircraft. Only the fuselage remained, while the instruments and valuable engine had been removed. Aircraft of this type were used in the Soviet Union to teach cadets aerobatics. The plane was lightweight and forgiving of mistakes. Even if the landing gear had been forgotten, it could land safely on its protruding wheels. A married couple discovered that a large cast iron safe had been hidden behind the wall of their house and, judging by the damage, had survived a fire. Naturally, the new homeowners hoped to find valuables inside, but instead they discovered receipts from the early 1900s from an unknown grocery store owned by George A. Crozier. In 1987, the Hawley family found the Arabia, a paddle steamer that had sunk in 1856. Because the Missouri River changed course, the 52-meter vessel ended up beneath a cornfield at a depth of 14 meters. In the ship's holds, the family found 200 tons of cargo, ranging from shoes to cognac, and thanks to the mud, all of these items were exceptionally well preserved. Home renovation very often brings surprises. For example, this family discovered a tin can above the ceiling containing about $500 in banknotes from the 1980s and an old wallet. Dozens of Cold War tanks are rusting at the British Lulworth training area, where the army uses them as targets. Heavy conquerors, classic centurions, and massive chieftains stand there. The vehicles are completely empty inside, without engines, optics, or ammunition. The area is military property, so access to the tanks is permitted only on weekends when no firing exercises are taking place. In this footage, you can see a man named Bodie Smalley. He suffered from insomnia, and during one sleepless night, he decided to check an old map of the area that supposedly marked the location of a treasure. Bodie had doubted the story for a long time, but the map turned out to be accurate, and he managed to find a chest containing $25,000. During renovation work, workers discovered a Coleman State Bank calendar from 1922 inside a wall. At the time, the calendar displayed the bank's impressive capital, but later it served merely as insulation. A fisherman on the island of Lefkada decided to explore a sea cave and discovered a drifting Magora unmanned boat inside. It was equipped with explosives and 3 active detonators. It was a dangerous discovery. While walking along a beach, a boy noticed strange wooden beams in the sand. His mother thought they were simply pieces of an old fence washed ashore by the waves, but the child insisted on having them checked. It turned out that he had found a unique artifact, a 15-meter fragment of the hull of a ship that sank at the end of the 18th century. People discovered a motorcycle in a parking lot that had become stuck among the branches of a tree. Everyone wanted to know how it had ended up there, but unfortunately there were no surveillance cameras in that location. On one rural road in Japan, dozens of arcade machines can be seen. They were all discarded when the era of games like these came to an end. It is hard to believe that this hotel closed its doors more than 3 years ago. Everything inside still looks as though it is ready to welcome guests right now. While exploring a river, a man discovered an interesting sphere on the bottom. It turned out to be a magic ball. It is interesting to wonder whether it was simply a toy or whether it had been used in many seances. Researchers discovered a rabbit hole in a farmer's field and decided to climb into it. Inside, they found rooms with arches, candle niches, and symbols that legend connects with the Knights Templar. It was a very unexpected discovery. A group of friends decided to explore an abandoned gym in Brisbane. They found sports equipment and photographs of staff members inside. The gym had a special atmosphere that served as a reminder of how quickly time passes. 8-year-old Dor Valanitz made an amazing discovery in the Ramon crater. He found a fragment of a Roman figurine measuring 6 by 6 centimeters. The artifact, carved from local phosphorite, dates to the 4th century AD. At first, the find was mistaken for a fossil, but traces of skilled carving were later discovered on it. Archaeologists believe it may depict Jupiter or the Nabatean god Zeus Dusares. For his important discovery, the boy received a certificate from the Israel Antiquities Authority. While walking their dogs, 2 friends discovered strange tracks in Lowther Bay. It was later determined that they were about 2,000 years old. A researcher made 2 discoveries, one after another. First, he found a matching pair of silver medallions bearing an old Arabic inscription. And then he discovered a small engraved heart-shaped pendant. A group of friends decided to explore an area in the forest with a metal detector. There they discovered a metal box containing firearms. The friends reported their find to the police. It later turned out that a drug cartel had once operated not far from that place. A group of friends bought an abandoned garage that had not been opened for a long time. At the time, they had no idea that they would discover a Chevrolet Corvette C3 inside, a legendary sports car produced from 1968 to 1982. Its design was inspired by the Mako Shark concept. Its recognizable pop-up headlights, large ventilation grills on the fenders, and fastback silhouette made the model an icon of the muscle car era. The C3 was produced as both a coupe and a convertible, and today it is highly valued by collectors for its combination of style, performance, and historical significance. Even though the car had stood in the garage for more than 20 years, the friends managed to start it. Researchers entered an abandoned building and found a rusty M47 Patton, an American medium tank from the 1950s. The tank was equipped with a turret carrying a 90mm gun, as well as a gun stabilization system, and it was widely supplied to NATO allies. The M47 saw combat in Vietnam and in the Arab-Israeli and Indo-Pakistani conflicts. Despite being quickly replaced in frontline service by the more modern M48, the tank remained in service around the world for many years. These researchers descended into an abandoned well near Los Angeles. To their surprise, they discovered a secret room inside, equipped with railings and wooden supports, with reinforced walls. The researchers assumed that the room had been built as a shelter. A man exploring an area with a metal detector discovered a genuine weapons cache from the Second World War underground. It contained more than 40 firearms, including German K98 rifles, MG42 machine guns, Mosin rifles, Carcano rifles, and many others. A man decided to investigate stories claiming that there was a secret bunker in his town where cars were hidden. He found the entrance and really did discover more than 70 vintage vehicles inside. In May of 2026, during a school excursion in the Brandbu area, 6-year-old Henrik Refsnes Mortvedt found an object in a field that looked like a sword. The boy reported the discovery to his teacher. Experts later determined that it was a single-edged C-X approximately 1,300 years old. The sword is now kept at the Museum of Cultural History in Oslo. During a field search, a man discovered a heavily rusted object. It was later identified as a German Faust-Patron anti-tank grenade launcher from the Second World War. The weapon had been produced since 1943 and was a disposable short-range weapon. Despite its small size, less than 1 meter in length, the Faust-Patron could penetrate armor up to 140 millimeters thick, making it dangerous to Soviet and Allied tanks. The grenade launcher was widely used in 1944 and 1945. Brett Nankervis spent almost 30 years searching for a Volkswagen Beetle that had once belonged to his father. For a long time, the search produced no results because there was no accurate information about the car's location. Eventually, social media helped him. After Brett published a post on Facebook, an acquaintance told him that the car was sitting in dense blackberry bushes. The Beetle was found in badly neglected condition, but Brett still plans to restore it completely in order to preserve the memory of his father. The remains of mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, bison, and other Ice Age animals are regularly found in Yakutia. The region contains about 80% of the world's finds with preserved soft tissue because, throughout the vast permafrost zone, animal bodies remain frozen for thousands of years. As the climate warms, the permafrost melts, and people are discovering ancient remains more and more often. In Saugerties, New York, a man found a rare double-terminated quartz crystal known as a Herkimer diamond. Despite the name, it is not a diamond, but an unusually transparent form of quartz that grows in cavities inside dolomite and therefore develops pointed ends on both sides. These crystals are famous for their natural faceting, and tiny bubbles or droplets are often trapped inside. The man's discovery is impressive because of its size and perfect shape. Specimens like this are uncommon and highly valued by collectors. In May of 2015, construction workers in Cologne discovered a 1-ton American bomb during excavation work. Authorities urgently evacuated 20,000 people within a radius of 1 kilometer. Schools had to be closed, trains stopped, traffic on the Rhine halted, and even the local zoo was partially evacuated. Despite the serious danger, bomb disposal specialists successfully neutralized the shell. A man discovered a Wurndl rifle from 1867 in a small river in the Czech Republic. Weapons of this type were widely used by the Austro-Hungarian army during the First World War. Researchers found the Herkimer battle jitney at a scrapyard, a fictional armored vehicle built from a Ford truck from 1979 for the film Mystery Men. It is surprising that such an unusual movie prop somehow ended up unwanted. A researcher discovered an AB-252 German cluster bomb from the Second World War in a forest. It consisted of a steel container, 173 centimeters long, with 3 compartments and stabilizers. Inside were 224 small SD-1 bombs. When dropped, the doors opened and scattered the munitions over the target. Near an old gold mine in Nevada, many interesting objects from a previous era can be found, including a United States Navy 28 Trojan training aircraft. During another excavation in Germany, archaeologists discovered Roman armor, or more precisely, 30 iron plates from which it had been made. After studying the find, experts concluded that it was the armor of a soldier who had taken part in the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest in the year 9 AD. The creator of this video showed what Camp Corale looks like today, a secret Third Reich military complex near Berlin, built in 1943 as the headquarters of the Kriegsmarine. It included a command bunker, a radio center, an air raid shelter for 750 people, and Dunitz's residence. In April of 1945, the complex was captured by Soviet forces. A researcher discovered a hand-operated ventilation mechanism inside a German bunker from the First World War. The device guaranteed a supply of fresh air even on the deepest levels of the bunker. Treasure hunters searching for Aztec artifacts discovered a fragment of an obsidian blade in a swamp. It later turned out to be part of a macuahuitl, a distinctive Aztec weapon in the form of a wooden club fitted with blades of volcanic glass. The artifact is more than 500 years old. The discovery was unique because almost no authentic examples of this weapon have survived. You may be surprised to see this boat in the desert, but there is nothing mysterious about it. The reason is that the Aral Sea once occupied this area and has now almost completely dried up. At low tide near the city of Lapu-Lapu, a yacht can be seen that was abandoned many years ago and is gradually turning into a rusting vessel. There is a legend among people in Yorkshire that this massive stone was thrown at a church by the devil, but fell slightly short. In reality, however, the Rudston monolith appeared at this location long before the church, probably between 3,500 and 5,000 years ago. Researchers decided to inspect a crypt in a cemetery and found an entrance leading to a lower level where coffins were also located. It looked quite frightening. In this footage, you can see the Gate of the Sun, a magnificent stone arch from the Tiwanaku civilization located near Lake Titicaca at an altitude of 3,825 meters above sea level. The monument is 3 meters high and 4 meters wide and was discovered in the 19th century in a broken condition. It is still unknown where it originally stood or what its true purpose was. Scholars believe the carved decoration has astronomical significance and that the monument may have served as a calendar for the ancient civilization. A researcher in a forest in the Ural region discovered massive metal objects inside which birds had built their nests. They turned out to be fragments of a stage from the Bark missile. It had been developed for Akula submarines, but the project was cancelled in the 1990s. A man named John Brescia was working in his garden when he accidentally discovered something metallic underground. He later learned that a Ford Popular from the 1950s had been buried on his property all those years. He does not know how the car ended up underground. When looking at the Church of St. George in Lalibela, it may seem like an ordinary tall building, but from a bird's eye view, the unique architecture of the structure becomes spectacularly clear. Divers decided to explore the sunken ferry Zenobia and discovered a Scania truck on its deck. It was only one of around 100 trucks that went underwater with the vessel because of a ballast system failure. While exploring a coastal area, a man discovered 2 linked wedding rings, but neither had an engraving, so finding their owners will probably be impossible. While walking behind the grounds of the Roanoke Railway Station Museum, tourists discovered an abandoned locomotive. It is interesting to wonder why it was not restored like the others. In 2021, workers dismantling the monument to General Lee in Richmond found 2 time capsules from 1887. The first, made of lead, turned out to be an unofficial cache left by construction workers. It contained an almanac, a couple of coins, a book, and a photograph of a stonemason. 1 week later, a second official copper capsule was found. Inside were artifacts from the Civil War, including bullets, buttons, Confederate money, and a Bible. Sometimes divers manage to discover more than rare marine animals. For example, these people found a military vessel underwater that had been sunk during the Second World War. In one of the villages of central Russia, an abandoned Ka-26 has stood for many years, the only Soviet helicopter certified for civilian operation in the United States. It once performed agricultural work and carried passengers, but now it is rusting in the open air. Enthusiasts from the helicopter museum found the aircraft and want to restore it for exhibition and perhaps even return it to the sky one day. During a dive in the Florida Keys, diver Drake Nicholas accidentally discovered a 10-kilogram silver bar on the seabed. It was later found to be connected with the Spanish galleon Nuestra Señora de Atocha. In 1622, the ship was sailing from the Spanish colonies to Europe, carrying precious metals when it was caught in a storm and sank. The bar became a valuable artifact, and its value is estimated at 100,000 United States dollars. A researcher using a metal detector discovered a rusty Walther P38, an iconic German pistol that became the Wehrmacht's main army sidearm during the Second World War. It was adopted in 1940 as a replacement for the Parabellum. The model stood out for its well-designed construction, including a locking block system, 2 recoil springs in the frame, a reliable safety mechanism, and double-action operation. After the war, the pistol was produced in West Germany as the Pone and was used for decades by the military and police. Today, it is a sought-after collector's item. Restaurant owner Rob Buffalo of Titusville was counting the day's revenue when he found a $1 bill signed by 4 astronauts from the STS-27 mission: Gibson, Shepard, Ross, and Mullane. Their flight aboard the Shuttle Atlantis in December of 1988 was classified and carried out for the United States Department of Defense. The signed banknote became a rare artifact of the space age. In Cat Stair Canyon near Lake Powell in Utah, an unusual wall made from old cars can be found. In the 1960s, local residents stacked cars on top of one another to reinforce the roadbed and stop erosion. Utah's dry climate helped the structure survive to the present day. The place has now become an unusual attraction, while a highway still runs above the wall of cars. A man with a metal detector found a touching discovery, a watch that had belonged to one of the soldiers. The hands had stopped forever at 12 o'clock, but the researcher hopes that its owner managed to return home from the war. A man bought an antique chest of drawers at an auction. While examining his purchase, he was surprised to discover a hidden compartment containing $5,000. Divers discovered a sunken Camaro Z28 from 1974 at a depth of 17 meters in Sebago Lake, Maine. They decided to recover the car from the water so they could examine it more closely. The vehicle was badly damaged, and even its VIN code had been almost completely erased. No one knows how the car ended up on the bottom. In 2024, a family in Britain bought a house and discovered a guitar in the attic. It turned out to be a rare 12-string Framus hootenanny from 1964 that had been played by John Lennon and George Harrison. Lennon used the instrument while recording the albums Help and Rubber Soul, and later gave it to manager Gordon Waller. Waller left the guitar in the attic of his home, where it remained for almost half a century. After expert Andy Babiuk confirmed its authenticity, the instrument was sold at Julien's auctions for almost $3 million. In 2011, divers off the coast of Beaufort, North Carolina, raised an anchor weighing 891 kilograms. It is believed to be the anchor from the famous pirate Blackbeard's ship, Queen Anne's Revenge. The vessel ran aground in 1718, yet the artifact remained in fairly good condition. This car has been hanging in a tree for a very long time, but no one knows under what circumstances it ended up there or why it has still not been removed. A magnet fisherman pulled a 76mm anti-aircraft shell from a river, but it turned out to be a training dummy. Its bright yellow-black coloring gives it away, since this pattern is typical of training ammunition. During the war, real shells of this kind were handled manually. Artillery crews set the detonation time on the timing fuse, determining in advance how many seconds the shell should fly before reaching the required altitude. In this way, soldiers tried to make the shell explode near an enemy aircraft. A researcher discovered a secret bunker, and inside it were a Fiat racing car and a vintage tow truck. How they ended up inside the bunker remains a mystery. They may have been deliberately hidden during the war or abandoned during a restoration project. A man went treasure hunting with a metal detector. Beneath the leaves, he discovered an edged weapon that had probably belonged to a soldier from the 19th century. Although it was not gold, the researcher was very happy with the discovery. In this footage, you can see Masuda no Iwafune, a unique granite megalith from the 7th century located in the Japanese village of Asuka. It weighs as much as 800 tons, and its dimensions are astonishing: 11 meters long, 8 meters wide, and 4.7 meters high. The main mystery of the monument is its perfectly level top with 2 deep square openings. Scholars still debate its purpose. According to the leading theory, it is an unfinished tomb. Others believe the megalith may have been a lunar observatory or an altar. On the Croatian peninsula of Pelješac, archaeologists discovered a second Greco-Illyrian helmet from the 6th century BC. The find was made in the Zakaturak necropolis, where a similar artifact had already been found in 2020. The presence of 2 helmets emphasizes the high status of the local elite and the importance of the region in ancient trade. Paleontologist Federico Agnolin discovered a beautifully preserved dinosaur egg in Argentine Patagonia that is 70 million years old. This rare discovery has enormous scientific value. It will allow researchers to study embryonic development, reproduction, and the nesting behavior of ancient South American reptiles in detail. Researchers using metal detectors examined an area and discovered 4 German helmets underground. One of them turned out to be unique because the scratched name W. Arnold was still clearly visible on its surface. It was a genuine personal item belonging to a soldier who had worn the helmet in battle. Details like this give a real human story back to the anonymous echo of war. Imagine driving a tractor across a field when the plow suddenly catches on a rusty aerial bomb. It sounds terrifying, but farmers in France are not easily surprised by such things. More than 80 years after the Second World War, they are still gathering a deadly iron harvest. The ground is literally scattered with mines and shells. According to statistics, French bomb disposal teams remove as much as 500 tons of old ammunition from fields every year. When a mechanic in Minnesota was repairing a Ford Edge from 2015, he had no idea that he was about to make an unusual discovery. Looking under the hood, he noticed a strange object jammed among the mechanisms. It turned out to be an old leather wallet containing money and documents in the name of Richard Guilford. The mechanic managed to locate the owner and learned that he had accidentally lost it on the assembly line. How the wallet remained intact after the car had traveled 100,000 kilometers remains a mystery. Just imagine buying an old suitcase at a flea market for $10 and finding diamonds inside. That is exactly what happened to a Nashville woman named Debbie. The suitcase sat unused for several months until she began preparing for a trip. At the bottom, beneath a red scarf, was an inconspicuous black pouch. Debbie opened it and discovered a diamond ring and luxury jewelry from the David Yurman brand. It might have been the most successful $10 investment in history, but the woman decided to find the people who owned the jewelry and return it to them. Researchers accidentally discovered a rusted Jensen 541R from 1958, an astonishing and rare British sports car. In its day, it featured an innovative fiberglass body and disc brakes on all four wheels. The car was equipped with a 4-liter 6-cylinder Austin engine, producing 150 horsepower. With a top speed of 200 kilometers per hour, it was one of the fastest 4-seat cars of its time. In 2013, Steve Thurber found a green bottle containing a sealed letter on Tofino Beach in Canada. Through the glass, he could see the date, 1906, and the name Earl Willard, a passenger on a voyage from San Francisco to Bellingham. Despite worldwide interest in the discovery, Thurber firmly refused to open the bottle, choosing to preserve the century-old mystery of the message forever. Inside an abandoned Soviet hangar, researchers discovered a Su-17 fighter bomber. Although the aircraft was badly damaged, the enthusiasts decided to try restoring it. They may even manage to return it to the sky one day. Museum employees were very surprised when they discovered a storage room containing Madeira from 1796 behind a boarded-up wall at William Livingston's estate. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were very fond of this fortified wine. A family bought an abandoned historic mansion. Inside, the new owners found a huge number of objects from the beginning of the previous century, including furniture, interior decorations, and bottles of wine. A man named Julian Hernandez went hiking through one of the canyons in Utah with his son. On the way back, they became lost and had to spend the night there. Fortunately, they accidentally found a backpack containing food, water, and a tent. It turned out that the backpack belonged to a 15-year-old teenager named Levi Dittman, who had left it there in case someone became lost. This footage was recorded in a private German museum that closed in 2007. A collection of more than 100 different vehicles is still located there, including Kaiser cars, Erich Honecker's limousine, and genuine MiG-21 fighter aircraft. Researchers using metal detectors went to the Courland Pocket in Latvia, where 200,000 soldiers had been surrounded during the Second World War. There, they managed to find a rusty Spagan submachine gun, better known as the PPS. It was one of the principal weapons of the Red Army. Near the island of Texel in the North Sea, divers discovered the wreckage of a ship that sank in the 17th century. They also found a sealed parcel containing a silk dress, a purse, a hair comb, and a book bearing the coat of arms of King Charles I. These items probably belonged to an English aristocratic woman. A researcher using a metal detector discovered a ceremonial dagger belonging to a Wehrmacht officer. Weapons like this combined elegance and functionality and were a source of pride for their owners. In 2017, a gigantic cluster of emeralds was discovered at a depth of 200 meters in the Carnaíba mine in Brazil. It measured 1.3 meters high and weighed 360 kilograms, or about 1.8 million carats. The value of this unique discovery is estimated at approximately $300 million. A private investor purchased the enormous monolith. Because of the risk of theft, its location is kept strictly secret. In 1857, during work to deepen the River Thames in London, workers found a bronze shield from the Iron Age. Today it is known as the Battersea Shield. Because the artifact is decorated with Celtic ornament and red glass and is too thin for practical combat, historians concluded that it was a ceremonial object, deliberately thrown into the water as a ritual offering to the gods. Today, this Celtic masterpiece is displayed in the British Museum. More than 80 years have passed since the end of the Second World War, but researchers continue to find ammunition from that period. While exploring the harsh rocks of Australia's Pilbara region, gemstone hunter Patrick Gunderson noticed an unusual formation. Armed with tools, he began breaking into the solid rock. Suddenly, a gigantic purple crystal emerged from the stone. The massive piece turned out to be part of the largest amethyst cluster ever found on the continent. A group of friends discovered a trench from the Second World War, and inside it were 7 rusted Soviet rifles. In a Massachusetts forest, researchers came across an abandoned trailer. At first, only junk could be seen inside, but behind it was an incredible discovery, a futuristic fiberglass bubble car. It was an original prop from Woody Allen's film Sleeper from 1973. After filming, a private collector bought the concept car, but later abandoned the property and left the unique vehicle to decay inside the trailer. Deep in the forests of the Canadian province of Ontario lies an unusual artifact from the past. If you leave the popular Seguin Trail, you can come across a steam boiler that was abandoned there many decades ago. It once powered trains on the historic Ottawa, Arnprior, and Parry Sound Railway, but now it is slowly rusting into a pile of metal. That is all for today. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to rate it, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell. Your activity is the best reward for me. Thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye.